Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to think about something for a moment. Have you ever been hurt? I mean, really hurt by someone close to you, someone you trusted, someone you loved? Maybe it was a betrayal. Maybe it was rejection. Maybe it was just the sting of someone's words that cut so deep it felt like they took a piece of you with them when they left. It happens to all of us, doesn't it? But here's the question: how do you deal with it? How does God deal with it? When we face hurt, betrayal, or injustice, it's easy to want to respond in the same way we've been treated. There's a natural inclination in all of us to seek fairness, to want what's been taken from us to be returned, and to wish for those who have wronged us to feel the same pain we've experienced. But here's the thing about God's justice. It's not like the justice we see in the world. Human justice is often limited by what we can see and understand in the moment. We act on what we can observe, what we can prove, and what seems just in the eyes of the world. But God's justice is different. It transcends our limited perspective and operates from a place of eternal wisdom. God's justice is perfect because it is not clouded by emotion or human bias. When a wrong is committed, whether we see it or not, God sees everything. He understands every intention behind every action. He knows why someone did what they did, the circumstances that led them to make those choices, and even the heart behind their behavior. What may seem unjust to us may have deeper layers that only God can fully comprehend. Human beings often misinterpret actions based on their own understanding and emotions, but God's view is complete and flawless. He knows the end from the beginning, and his judgment is shaped by perfect knowledge. Another key aspect of God's perfect justice is his ability to handle every situation with a sense of balance that we often can't achieve on our own. We might want to see someone punished for their actions, but God's justice isn't just about consequences. It's about reconciliation, redemption, and restoring things to their rightful place. In our limited human understanding, justice often seems like an eye for an eye, a direct response to what was done to us. But God's justice seeks to restore what was lost and heal what was broken. It doesn't just punish, it transforms. God's justice also operates on a different timeline. We often expect immediate responses when we've been wrong. We want to see things fixed right away, to feel that the scales of justice are balanced. But God's justice doesn't work according to our schedule. While we might want someone to face the consequences of their actions now, God sees the bigger picture. He knows when and how to address each situation in a way that ultimately benefits everyone involved. Sometimes that means waiting. Sometimes it means enduring the pain for a while longer because God is working behind the scenes in ways we can't see. We also have to recognize that God's justice isn't about revenge. In human justice, we often get caught up in the idea of payback, of making the other person suffer as we have suffered. But God's justice is not vindictive. It doesn't work to satisfy our desire for retaliation. It's grounded in love, mercy, and grace, even for those who hurt us. His justice seeks to bring about lasting change, to give people the opportunity to change their hearts and behaviors. God's justice offers mercy and grace to those who may not deserve it because he sees the potential for redemption even in the people who hurt us. Finally, God's justice is not limited by human standards. We might look at someone's actions and decide they don't deserve forgiveness, they don't deserve restoration, or they don't deserve mercy. But God doesn't work by those standards. He sees the heart, not just the actions. He knows the full capacity for change within a person, and he operates with the understanding that even the most broken individuals can be transformed by his love and grace. When we try to take matters into our own hands, we often act out of anger, frustration, or hurt. But God's justice is always administered with perfect love, and that's what makes it perfect. His ability to balance justice and mercy without ever compromising either one. When we are hurt, especially by someone we love or trust, the pain can be overwhelming. It can feel like a wound that never heals, a scar that refuses to fade, a constant reminder of the betrayal or rejection we've experienced. In those moments, it's easy to believe that the pain will define us, that the hurt will be a permanent part of who we are. But the truth is, God's response to our pain is not just to leave us in the hurt, but to actively heal us. The process of healing isn't always immediate, and it doesn't always look the way we think it should, but it is always available. God's promise to heal us goes beyond the mere absence of pain. It is about restoration, renewal, and transformation. God's healing power is not limited by time or the depth of the wound. We may feel like the hurt we've experienced is so deep, so painful, that it's impossible to ever be truly free from it. But God doesn't just heal surface wounds. He reaches into the very core of our being and works to heal the parts of us that we can't even articulate, the parts that have been scarred by past betrayals, rejections, and disappointments. His healing touches every aspect of our lives, and it isn't confined to the wounds others can see. When we are hurt, God doesn't just heal the obvious pain, he heals the brokenness in our hearts, our spirits, and our minds. In those moments when we feel like we've been wounded beyond repair, we have to remember that God is the ultimate healer. He knows the precise depth of our pain and has the ability to heal every part of us. But more than that, God's healing isn't just about bringing us back to where we were before the hurt. It's about making us whole again, stronger than we were before. The healing God offers has the power to transform us, to bring us to a place where we are not just restored, but made new. In his hands, our brokenness becomes the foundation for something better, something stronger. It's like a broken vase that when mended becomes even more beautiful than before because it has been put together with care, love, and intention. God's healing also doesn't happen in our time, but in his. This can be one of the hardest things to accept when we're going through pain. We want relief right away. We want to be healed, to move on, to feel better as soon as possible. But God's healing is a process. Sometimes it's a slow journey, one that requires us to trust in his timing and his method. It's easy to become frustrated when the healing doesn't come immediately, but God knows exactly when and how to work in our lives. His timing is always perfect, even if it doesn't align with our expectations. Just because we don't feel healed in a moment doesn't mean God isn't working behind the scenes. His healing is unfolding in ways that we may not even realize, and it will come in his perfect timing. God's healing is also a process that involves us. He doesn't just wave a magic wand and remove all our pain. He works with us. He invites us to participate in our healing, to bring our wounds before him and trust him with them. This means being vulnerable, being willing to acknowledge the pain, and allowing ourselves to feel the hurt before we can fully experience healing. It also means allowing God to lead us through the process, whether that involves forgiveness, letting go of resentment, or confronting the emotions that we bury deep inside. It requires patience, trust, and faith, knowing that he who began a good work in us will be faithful to complete it. The healing that God offers is also one that is ongoing. It's not just a one-time event. As we move through life, we will encounter more challenges, more hurts, more wounds. But God's healing is not a one-and-done deal. It's something that is available to us continuously. When we experience new pain, God doesn't abandon us or leave us to fend for ourselves. Instead, he continues to heal, restore, and renew. His healing is constant, always available, and never runs out. Every time we are hurt, he offers us the opportunity to bring that pain to him, to let him heal us once more, and to move forward in greater strength and freedom. When we're hurt, it's natural to want to seek revenge. There's something inside of us that longs for justice, that wants to see the person who wronged us face the consequences of their actions. It can be hard to let go of the anger and bitterness that arise from being hurt, and even harder to imagine forgiving someone who has caused us deep pain. But God calls us to a higher way, a way that frees us from the chains of resentment and anger that can hold us captive for far longer than we ever intended. The truth is, when we hold on to that anger, when we allow the desire for revenge to take root in our hearts, we only hurt ourselves further. God invites us to release our desire for retaliation and trust him to handle the situation. This doesn't mean that we deny the pain we've experienced or that we condone the wrong that was done to us. It simply means that we stop trying to take matters into our own hands and allow God to be the one who deals with it. God's message to us is clear. Vengeance is his, not ours. When we surrender the need to pay someone back, we allow God to step in and handle things in a way that we never could on our own. The challenge in letting go of anger is that it's often rooted in the idea of fairness. We want to see the person who hurt us get what they deserve, to feel the weight of their actions. But God's understanding of fairness is much broader than ours. While we see an isolated incident, God sees the whole story. He sees the motives behind actions, the reasons people do what they do, and the opportunity for redemption even for those who hurt us. God's justice is not just about making sure someone gets what's coming to them. It's about bringing healing, restoration, and transformation to all parties involved. When we trust God to handle the situation, we allow him to work in the lives of those who have wronged us, giving them the chance to change and seek reconciliation. Forgiveness is a key part of releasing our desire for revenge. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting what happened or pretending it didn't hurt. It means choosing to let go of the bitterness and the anger that threaten to take root in our hearts. It means choosing to give that person over to God, trusting that he will take care of it in his time and in his way. Forgiveness is an act of faith. It's trusting that God's justice is better than our own, that he sees the full picture, and that he will bring about what is right. It's letting go of the idea that we are the ones who have to make things right. When we forgive, we also free ourselves from the burden of carrying the hurt. Holding on to anger is like carrying a heavy weight on your shoulders every day. It's exhausting. It affects your ability to move forward, to grow, and to experience peace. But when we choose to forgive and release our anger, we let go of that weight. We no longer let the person who hurt us control our emotions or our peace. Instead, we give God control, trusting that he will bring healing to our hearts and justice to the situation. It's also important to remember that God's way of dealing with those who hurt us is not just about restoring us, it's also about offering grace to those who have wronged us. God's desire is not for people to remain stuck in their wrongdoing, but for them to be transformed by his love and grace. That doesn't mean that they won't face the consequences of their actions. It simply means that God's ultimate goal is to bring everyone to a place of healing and redemption. When we let go of our need for revenge, we create space for God to work in the lives of those who have hurt us, to bring them to a place of healing as well. Trusting God to handle the situation doesn't mean we ignore the pain or pretend it didn't matter. It means that we trust him to handle the pain, to bring healing to our hearts, and to work justice in his way. It means we release our grip on the situation and give it to him, knowing that he sees all, he understands all, and he will handle all with perfect justice and mercy. We can't always understand why things happen the way they do, but we can trust that God will work it out for our good and his glory. When we talk about God's way being redemption, not revenge, we're speaking to the heart of his character and his purposes in the world. It's so easy to get caught up in the idea that when someone wrongs us, there must be some form of retaliation, that the scales must be balanced in some way to satisfy our sense of justice. Human nature tends to lean toward payback, toward the idea of seeing someone suffer in return for the harm they've caused. We want the wrongs to be righted, we want things to be fair, and we feel that if we don't make the other person feel the weight of their actions, then justice hasn't been served. But this approach can only take us so far. It leaves us trapped in cycles of pain, bitterness, and division. It leaves us stuck in the past, unable to move forward because we are so fixated on making the other person pay. God, however, offers a radically different way. His way is not revenge, it's redemption. When God deals with the hurt we've experienced, he doesn't seek to punish the person who hurt us for the sake of punishment. He seeks to bring about transformation in both us and them. The goal is not simply to bring justice by inflicting harm or creating suffering. Instead, God's justice operates on a deeper level, aiming to restore what's been broken, to heal the wounds, and to bring people to a place of reconciliation. Revenge might give us a temporary sense of satisfaction, but redemption brings lasting healing. God is in the business of transforming lives, our own, and those of the people who have hurt us. The reason God doesn't seek revenge is because his heart is for healing and restoration. He understands that the ultimate goal is not simply punishing those who've done wrong, but creating an opportunity for change. When someone wrongs us, we might feel justified in wanting them to experience the same hurt they've inflicted on us. But God's redemptive heart wants to see them transformed, to give them an opportunity to change, to experience his grace and forgiveness just as he offers it to us. This doesn't mean that wrongdoers won't face consequences or that they are excused from their actions. But it means that God's justice is always aligned with his love, mercy, and desire for redemption. The hope is not that people remain stuck in their mistakes or remain in the cycle of hurt, but that they are drawn to repentance and transformation. God's redemptive approach is also about healing us, the ones who have been hurt. When we seek revenge, we might get some satisfaction in the moment, but we are left carrying the weight of bitterness and anger. Those emotions do not set us free. They keep us bound to the past. But God's way of redemption allows us to release the pain, to let go of the hurt, and to move forward. When we allow God to work in us and trust his process of redemption, we free ourselves from the chains of bitterness and resentment. We open ourselves up to healing and growth, not only for the person who hurt us, but also for ourselves. Redemption, when we understand it in the light of God's love, is always about breaking free from the cycles of hurt, pain, and retaliation, and moving towards something better Furthermore, God's redemption offers us the ability to see beyond the offense. When we are hurt, it's easy to become so focused on the wrong that we can't see beyond it. We get consumed by our desire for justice, by the weight of our own pain, and we forget that God sees the bigger picture. He doesn't just see the hurt we've experienced. He sees the potential for healing, growth, and reconciliation. In his redemptive plan, he works not just in our hearts, but in the hearts of those who have wronged us as well. When we trust in God's redemptive plan, we begin to see others through his eyes, not through the lens of pain and hurt. We start to understand that everyone is in need of grace and that the same forgiveness God offers to us. Redemption is a powerful force because it changes the entire narrative. Revenge keeps the story locked in a cycle of hurt and retaliation, but redemption rewrites the story, offering hope, healing, and restoration. It invites us to be part of a bigger story, one where healing takes place, where relationships are restored, and where people are transformed. It's not about ignoring the wrong that was done, but about trusting that God is able to bring something good out of the situation. When we choose redemption over revenge, we choose to let go of our own limited understanding and trust that God's plan for healing is far greater than anything we could ever imagine. When we talk about God restoring us, it's essential to understand that this restoration is not simply about returning us to a former state. It's about making us whole again, but in a way that is deeper and stronger than before. Life has a way of breaking us down. People hurt us, situations shake us, and circumstances often leave us feeling fractured, overwhelmed, or even shattered. We face betrayals, losses, disappointments, and countless struggles. In those moments, it can feel as though we may never be whole again, that the pieces of our heart, mind, and spirit can never truly fit back together. But God's restoration process is not about just mending the visible cracks. It's about transforming us at the core of who we are. Restoration is more than a simple fix. When God restores us, he doesn't just patch us up and send us on our way. Instead, he makes us whole in ways that we may not even fully comprehend. It's a holistic restoration that touches every aspect of our being, the physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. God's restoration is a work that goes beyond the surface. It digs deep into the places where we've been hurt, where we've been broken, and where we've carried wounds for far too long. And in those deep places, God's healing power works to not only heal the pain, but to change us. We may not be able to see it at the time, but God is transforming us into something stronger, more resilient, and more aligned with his purpose for our lives. God's restoration is not limited by our past. Sometimes we look at our past mistakes, failures, and wounds, and we believe that they define us, that we can never fully move past them. The world may tell us that we are the sum of our mistakes, our pain, and our shortcomings, but God doesn't see us that way. When he restores us, he doesn't look at us through the lens of our past, but through the lens of his grace and his purpose for our future. He sees what we can become, not what we've been. His restoration is forward-looking. It is about helping us step into the future he has designed for us, despite the pain and setbacks of our past. One of the most profound aspects of God's restoration is that it doesn't just heal the wound, it brings about something even greater than before. Think about a broken bone. When it heals properly, it becomes stronger than it was before the break. God's restoration works in much the same way. He takes the brokenness in our lives and turns it into strength. What was once a point of weakness becomes a testimony of his power, a place where his grace is evident and visible. We may not understand how or why certain things happen, but we can trust that God has the power to turn even the most painful moments into a source of strength and purpose. Restoration is also a process. It doesn't happen all at once. We may wish for instant healing, for the immediate removal of all our pain, but God's restoration is often gradual. It is a journey of growth, of learning to trust him in deeper ways, of seeing how he works in our lives and brings good even out of bad situations. Each step along the way builds us up, shapes us, and prepares us for what's ahead. The journey of restoration can sometimes be difficult, but it is one filled with purpose. As we walk through the process, we begin to see the depth of God's love, his faithfulness, and his ability to work in all things for our good. God's restoration doesn't just change us individually, it impacts those around us as well. As we are restored, we become vessels of restoration to others. Our experiences of healing and growth become a testimony to those who are still in pain, who are still struggling. We become the hands and feet of God's restoration in the lives of others. When we have experienced God's healing, we are better equipped to offer that same healing to the world around us. Our restored hearts become a source of hope for those who are broken and searching for the same peace and healing we've found. Ultimately, restoration is about returning us to the full potential that God created for us. He made us for a purpose, to live in fullness, joy, and freedom. When we've been hurt, broken, or lost, it's easy to feel as though we've been robbed of that potential. But God's restoration is his promise that he will take everything that has been lost or damaged and return it to its rightful place. He will restore our joy, our peace, and our purpose. What we thought was lost forever will be redeemed, and we will emerge stronger, more complete, and more aligned with the purpose he has for our lives.